Hello students, welcome you all for today's class. So today we are going to discuss on a topic called as adenomyosis. Adenomyosis, it is also called as endometriosis interna. So we have covered about the endometriosis. What do you mean by endometriosis? It is nothing but the presence of functioning endometrium in the sites other than the uterine mucosa. So there are two types, endometriosis interna and endometriosis externa. So endometriosis interna is also called by the name adenomyosis. So coming to its definition, adenomyosis is a condition where there is ingrowth of the endometrium, both the glandular and the stromal components, directly into the myometrium. So what happens here is, into the myometrium there will be ingrowth of the endometrium. Myometrium is the second most layer or the second muscular layer of the uterus. And endometrium is the innermost mucosal layer. So endometrium should be present in the mucosal layer, but here what happens, that endometrium is coming and it is in growth, that is, it is growing inside the myometrium. So this condition is called as adenomyosis or endometriosis interna. Coming to its causes, the cause of such ingrowth is not known exactly. It may be related to the repeated childbirths, vigorous curettage, or excess of estrogen effect. Pelvic endometriosis coexists in about 40% of cases. So about 40% of cases of adenomyosis is associated with the pelvic endometriosis. Coming to its pathogenesis, histologically it is characterized by the extension of endometrial glands and stroma beneath the EMI, that is the endometrial myometrial interface. So here what happens, there will be extension of the endometrial glands and stroma beneath the endometrial myometrial interface. As the mucosa is absent, so there is no mucosa in the uterus, there are only three layers. There is no submucosal layer, mucosa is there but submucosa is not there. So directly the mucosa is attached with the muscular layer. So as the submucosa is absent, the endometrial glands lie in direct contact with the underlying myometrium. So here there is no submucosa, so the endometrial glands are in direct contact with the underlying myometrium, and it forms nest deep within the myometrium. Subsequently, there is the myometrial hyperplasia around the endometriotic foci. So whenever the endometrium comes inside the myometrium, so there will be a myometrial hyperplasia around that endometrium implant or the foci. The myometrium starts hyperplasing. Okay, so the myometrial zone anatomy was observed by the MRI. So this can be better seen in the MRI. A junctional zone with low signal intensity on T2 weighted images is defined at the innermost layer of the myometrium. It is thought that the disturbances of normal junctional zone, that is JZ, predisposes to the secondary infiltration of endometrial glands and the stroma to the inner myometrial zone. So here the junctional zone, in the junctional zone disturbances occur, and also in the inner myometrial zone there will be deposition of the endometrial glands and the stroma. The disturbances of the junctional zone may be due to the endometrial factors, genetic predisposition, and altered immune response. Trauma to the deeper endometrium, that is with the help of repeated curettage or causing breakdown of EMI, is also taken as an important etiological factor. So whenever there is trauma to the deep endometrium, it can also lead to the adenomyosis. Coming to its pathology, the growth and tissue reaction in the endometrium depends on the response of the ectopic endometrial tissues to the ovarian steroid. So as we have already studied, that this endometrium, that is this ectopic or implanted endometrium, also has a response to the cyclic response to the ovarian hormone. That means there will be growth and the shedding will be there. So similarly here also this endometrial tissue responds to the ovarian steroidal hormones. If the basal layer is only present, the tissue reaction is much less, as it is not unresponsive to the hormones. As you know, in the if the basal layer is only present, there is no functional layer, then the tissue reaction is very less, because the basal layer is unresponsive to the ovarian hormones. But if the functional zone is present, which is responsible to hormones, the tissue reaction surrounding the endometrium is marked. There is hyperplasia of the myometrium producing diffuse enlargement of the uterus. So there is hyperplasia of the myometrium which leads to the diffuse enlargement of the uterus, sometimes symmetrically but at times more on the posterior wall. So the diffuse enlargement, usually it is a symmetrical one, means on the entire uterus becomes enlarged. Sometimes the posterior wall is more enlarged compared to the anterior one. The growth may be localized or may invade polyps. In that condition it is called as adenomyomatous polyp. So sometimes it is localized, but most of the time the growth is the diffused one. Coming to the naked eye examination or appearance, there is diffuse symmetrical enlargement of the uterus. The posterior wall is often more thickened than the anterior one. The size usually does not increase more than a large orange, that is around 12 to 14 weeks of a gestational uterus or the pregnant uterus. So the size can reach up to 12 to 14 weeks of the gestational or a pregnant uterus, but it cannot grow further. So that will be the size of an orange, large orange, it can reach the uterus. On cut section, there is a thickening of the uterine wall. The cut surface presents characteristic trabeculated appearance. Unlike fibroid, there is no capsule surrounding the growth. So in the fibroid, you may get confused adenomyosis with the fibroid, but here the difference is there is no false capsule like that of the fibroid. There may be visible blood spots at places. So you can see the blood spots at different places here. See, this is a diagram of a adenomyosis cut surface. You can see here how the endometrium is implanted in the myometrium, and here you can see the absence of a capsule and presence of dark blood spots. You can see here the dark blood spots are there, and there is no capsule, no false capsule, just like that of a fibroid. Coming to the histological examination, reveals the glandular tissue like that of endometrium surrounded by the stromal cells in the myometrium. So the glandular tissue of the endometrium surrounded by the myometrial stroma cells is seen in the histology. The response of the ectopic endometrial tissue to the ovarian hormones is minimal, as the invasion is predominantly in the basal layer. You can see here the picture of a adenomyosis histological picture. So the glandular tissue here is surrounded by the stromal tissue of the myometrium. Coming to the clinical features, in about 1/3 it remains asymptomatic, being discovered on histological examination. Patient's profile, the patients are usually paras with the age usually about 40. So paras ladies with 40 plus years is the more prone for the adenomyosis. Symptoms includes menorrhagia, dysmenorrhea, dyspareunia, frequency of urination, infertility, etc. So menorrhagia is seen in 70% of the patient. The excessive bleeding is due to the increased uterine cavity, associated endometrial hyperplasia, and inadequate uterine contractions. So during normal menstruation there are antegrade propagation of subendometrial contractions from the fundus to the cervix. In adenomyosis with distortion of the junctional zone, myometrial contractions are abnormal and inadequate. That's why leading to the menorrhagia and dysmenorrhea. Progressively increased clocky pain during period is due to retrograde pattern of uterine contractions. It also depends on the number and depth of the endometriotic foci in the myometrium. So when the depth of penetration is more than 80% of the myometrium, the pain is severe. So dysmenorrhea will be there, but the depth, if it is deep, that is more than 80% of the myometrium, that endometrium implantation is there, then that time patient gets very severe pain. And other causes of pain are local tissue edema and the prostaglandin secretion. Dyspareunia or frequency of urinations are due to enlarged and tender uterus. Next is the infertility. Women with adenomyosis have a high incidence of infertility and miscarriages. The reasons are abnormal function of the subendometrial myometrium, retrograde endometrial contractions, interference in sperm transport and blastocyst implantation, abnormal endometrial immune response and nitric oxide level. Coming to the signs, abdominal examination may reveal a hypogastric mass arising out of the pelvis. In the hypogastric mass region, you can see the mass occupying the midline arising from the pelvis, and in the midline you will find that mass. The size usually does not exceed 14 weeks of a pregnant uterus. So just like a large orange, that size will be. Pelvic examination reveals the uniform enlargement of the uterus. The finding, however, may be altered due to the associated fibroid or the pelvic endometriosis. Ultrasound and color Doppler TVS characteristics are: myometrium normally has 3 distinct zones of different echogenicity. The inner layer is the hypoechoic relative to the middle and the outer layer, and this subendometrial halo is a characteristics in the adenomyosis. So you'll find the subendometrial halo, which is a characteristic point of the adenomyosis in ultrasonography and the color Doppler scan. Other features are heterogeneous echogenicity, hypoechoic myometrium with multiple small cysts in the myometrium, honeycomb appearance, increased vascularity within the myometrium. So if you find increased vascularity, it is suggestive of the adenomyosis. You can see here the diagram, the transvaginal color Doppler scan showing the diffused enlarged uterus with anechoic cyst, Swiss cheese pattern with increased vascularity, which is a suggestive of adenomyosis. So Swiss cheese pattern with increased vascularity in the color Doppler transvaginal scan is a suggestive feature of a adenomyosis. Coming to the MRI imaging, in MRI it is more specific to the diagnosis. Low signal intensity TZ less than or equal to 8 mm excludes the disease, whereas TZ thickness more than 12 mm is suggestive of adenomyosis. So in the MRI, if you find the JZ thickness, JZ, that is the junctional zone thickness, if it is more than 12 mm, which is suggestive of the adenomyosis. Coming to the treatment is surgical. There is a very little place of hormonal therapy. Treatment with progestins and cyclic estrogens have got a little benefit. Levonorgestrone releasing IUS is found to improve the menorrhagia and dysmenorrhea. Danazol loaded 300 to 400 mg intrauterine device is also found to improve the symptoms of menorrhagia and dysmenorrhea. Serum danazol levels were not detected and the side effects are also minimum. Surgical management, conservative surgery is the adenomyomectomy, that is removal of the adenomyosis. Uterine mass reduction with the laparoscopy or laparotomy, hysterectomy, paras and the age domain. So hysterectomy is the definite surgery for any type of endometriosis or adenomyosis. It is the last surgery. Conservative means you have to just remove that part where the endometriosis or the adenomyosis is there located, but the permanent or the definitive surgery is nothing but hysterectomy. Then coming to the stromal endometriosis, it is a rare condition where the endometrial stromal cells without the glandular components are present in the places other than the uterine mucosa. It is one type of endometriosis. Pathogenesis, the stromal cells extend into the myometrium or even the broad ligament along the course of the lymphatics and muscle bundles. As there is a chance of reoccurrence, it is considered as locally malignant. And the uterus is uniformly enlarged as in adenomyosis. Microscopical examination reveals round and oval cells of endometrial stroma. Clinical features are similar to a case of any endometriosis, that is the same thing, like dysmenorrhea, dyspareunia, infertility, etc. will be there. Treatment, hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is the effective treatment. See, the definite treatment for any type of endometriosis is nothing but the hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, especially for the pelvic endometriosis and the stromal endometriosis. In younger patients, the ovaries may be preserved. Radiotherapy may be needed in the proven cases following its reoccurrence and or incomplete surgery. So this completes endometriosis and adenomyosis. Thank you.